Good evening and welcome to our virtual open house night. My name is Claus and I am your child's world history teacher. So this is World History A. Chances are they also have me for World History B, although a smattering of students will change at semester. World History lasts all year, A and B, and they are a required course for graduation. So I'm hoping they do well, and I will do all I can to help them do well. Perhaps a little bit about the course. This world history course has kind of an interesting perspective in that it's sometimes been described as history as viewed from the moon. And what they mean by that is that we look almost as if we're standing on the moon and look at kind of big things and how they changed over time. So the growth of an empire, the spread of a religion, the rise of a philosophy, very large-scale wars. That's sort of the business we're in. Things that would not be visible from the moon, so like individuals and specific events, specific dates, are more played down. So there's not a lot of names, there's not a lot of dates, and for a lot of students, that is welcome news. That's a very big picture sort of class, and one where we're always trying to answer the question of who cares? Why should I care about this? How does it help explain who we are today? World History A has a very long scope to it. So we start with early civilizations. Just a review, we don't really get into specific civilizations, but just talking about what a civilization is, what a state or country is, what an empire is, how empires rise and fall, and then really kind of fast forwarding to the modern world, empires that have existed and the world as it's existed for the last couple thousand years. So we don't do a lot of ancient stuff. World History B is limited to really the last couple hundred years. We basically, in World History A, will get to the Enlightenment and the French Revolution, the rise of government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And then World History B spends more time with the last couple of centuries and gets into modern circumstances, things like post-colonialism, modern genocide, and things like that. As far as class materials, there's not a ton that your student will need. They should have a folder or a notebook for this class, something where they can take notes and something where they can store handouts. I find, and this is something I've told your student in my class, but I find that my most successful students in high school are not necessarily my most brilliant students or even my hardest working students, but my most organized students. And I know everybody is blessed with different degrees of kind of natural tendencies toward organization. But I encourage students, and if your student is one of these, I encourage you to see if you have a student who's not terribly organized, to help them get better with that. For students, I recommend for each class having a labeled folder for each class and a notebook for each class, or possibly a big spiral notebook with dividers for each class. So that when a teacher says, hey, we're going to study this, or we're going to use this resource that we already have or have already created, the students who tend to do well with that are the ones who can immediately find what they're looking for. And the ones who tend to struggle are the ones who, even if they did the work, it's buried in a locker, or it's in their gym bag or their sports bag, or it's gone somewhere. And a lot of times that has the effect of if they had never really done the work at all. There's not a textbook for this class. We do have textbooks, but the textbooks were bought basically before the last release of the state mandated curriculum. And so unlike the course, which is not very heavy on names and dates, the textbook that was purchased probably 12 years ago now is very driven by kind of names and dates and, this emperor following this emperor sort of format. And so it's not terribly useful in most lessons. We will use it a little bit, but we just keep a class set. And so they're in the classroom, and your student can use them here on the rare occasions we do use them. I think we've been in school for 3 weeks and used it for one part on one day so far. If you would like your child to have a textbook, I'm certainly welcome or happy to send one home. They can ask me and check one out. No big deal. They're welcome to keep it at home, and they don't have to bring it back and forth if they want it as sort of a backup plan or security blanket academically. Because we're not using the textbook, a lot of what we use is things that I or the World History team has created. We use a lot of web-based resources, things like Khan Academy and the Crash Course World History series, and we do some simulations and projects that are more student-driven. kind of project-based learning sorts of things when we can fit it in time-wise. It's not a terribly difficult class, in my opinion. It's a class that is designed for every single student to have to be able to pass it to graduate. And so most students who are organized and turn things in do pretty well in this class. Probably the earliest thing you may hear discussion of, or perhaps even complaints about, is the weekly map quizzes. And those map quizzes, you can find all the information on the Google Classroom with those, but there's map quizzes pretty much every Friday, and they test kind of the biggest, most important countries in the world. I find that if students don't know where certain places are, say, the United Kingdom or India or China or Japan or Mexico, it's very difficult to have a meaningful conversation, even though that's information that they could theoretically look up. You can't look it up fast enough for the conversation to maintain a flow. So I have the students memorize where certain places in the world are so that we can have intelligent conversations about the world without having to pause and research every word of a sentence. So anyway, there's resources also for studying for the map quizzes. I've given the students a couple of study strategies in class, and I've also set up some computer games on the website Cetera. And so your student, if they put in the time, should be doing pretty well at these. A phrase I like to use with them is the idea of winning the series. Look at every week like a 7-game series, like in baseball or hockey or basketball, how they have a 7-game series. If every week is a 7-game series, you win the series by studying for the map quiz 4 or more days a week. So if you get 4 days where 10 or 15 minutes is usually enough when it comes to memorization, and if they can win the series, usually they do pretty well. Also, if they don't do well, so long as they take it honestly and are not caught trying to cheat their way to success, map quizzes can be retaken. There's weeks set aside to do that, and they can be retaken for full credit. So no map quiz is set in stone unless a student cheats, in which case they choose a 0, and that locks in. So encourage your student that each map quiz is really just sort of a trial, and if that trial doesn't go well, you can take it again. Perhaps a little bit about me. I have taught at Clarkston for a number of years. I actually went to Clarkston back in the day. I'm a class of 97 graduate, and got a job. I taught for 1 year after my time at Hillsdale College, taught for 1 year at another school, and I've taught at Clarkston ever since, starting the fall of 2002. So I think I'm on year 19. I am the boys varsity tennis coach, so this time of year is a very busy one for me. September and into the first couple of weeks of October is pretty swamped with coaching every day. After that, it lightens up, and I become a little bit more available. In my private life, I guess I'm very happily married to the awesomest woman in the world. She and I have 5 kids together, so I have 5 kids under 10, ages 10, 8, 6, 4, and 1. And so my life's pretty hectic, and I'm up to my elbows in diapers much of the time. We love to travel. This summer we packed up the family and went out, did some camping out through the Badlands and into Colorado, and went to St. Louis and visited some college friends, and sort of meandered around for about 4,000 miles, and largely tent camping with the kids. So that's perhaps sounds torturous to some people, but that's what's fun to us. I love sports. I love baseball, and pro baseball and college football are particular favorites. I love reading. I usually have something theological, something historical, and something literary going all at once. And I'm a very active church member. It's sort of a second family to me, and I really enjoy my time there. So if you ever need me, please get in touch. Email is the best way, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. Be assured that I consider it an absolute privilege to work with your student. Thank you for giving me that privilege, and I'm going to do all I can to make them successful in this class, and to give them, if not a love of history, at least the budding of a love of history that will reap dividends as they get older. Thanks for your time, and have a great night.